And welcome back to part 23 of Final Fantasy XII, where today we're doing some side questing before we start the second act of the story properly. But because I don't want to start the second act at all this video ends up being one on the shorter side, which I think this is actually one of the shortest videos in this series we've done so far outside of the prologue. This video really isn't going to be that long. It's under 20 minutes I haven't finished editing entirely yet, but it's under 20 minutes as of right this second. But there are some new hunts for us to pick up, such as the Vorpal Bunny here. As well as a few other hunts that we started earlier that we can go back to and finish now we're a bit stronger, even if we don't have a fourth party member with us anymore. But everyone's level, if you're following along, you're likely to either be late 30s or early 40s. But because I used a double XP, everyone's early 40s instead. This hunt against the Vorpal Bunny though, I want to talk about it because it annoys me. This is one of the hunts that really get under my skin. It's not the worst one, but it annoys me. In I've mentioned it before, but in this area, the spawn layout changes if you accept a particular hunt. This is the hunt in question. There is now a limitless level of skeletons spawning in the environment, trying to draw your attention away from the monster, the Vorpal Bunny. The reason being, this fucker's fast as hell. And if it makes too much distance from you, it will despawn, making it so you can't kill it. And so all these enemies that are skeletons running around are just there to try and stop you running after it. But as you can tell, all the skeletons do is inflict status conditions on you, which eventually cause you to stop anyway. And that's kind of what I mean. Like, Ash has been inflicted with disabled, so she can't actually do anything. So now she's useless in the fight. So the only way is to quickly throwing a cheeky remedy and hope that can cure enough of it that we can get her back in the action, since Bash doesn't have Vorpal Remedy. God, I'm talking about the Vorpal Bunny, doesn't have Remedy Law. Oh, and Balthier just died. So now that has to be delayed to pick him up. And you get the picture. This takes forever, and eventually I go, you know what, fuck it, and nuke the thing I just keep up with it and then just nuke it with Fire Purge. And even get an Arc Blast, which I think is weak to electric anyway, on the other side. And that's kind of what I recommend. If you're really over leveled, it won't be a problem, but if you're taking it the level you can, that's just going to be your best bet. Because screw that hunt. Seriously, it's one of the most frustrating hunts in the game. But what's interesting is that when you go back to report it in, you instead get a little cutscene. You don't just go up and talk to them and put it in. You'll get pulled to the side so you can be rewarded for it, because the people of the village don't like reaching out to outsiders. So to keep what's been done quiet, she tries to pull you to the side. Not that it helps, because she gets found out anyway. He was it as I say, for long now I've studied under Harlow, yet you remain salve apprentice because of I know you used to work become a salve maker and you wish to help, and your leg, I know of that too. Enough, Nera. That was an accident, no more. You were protecting a salve maker who ventured into Golmore, you correct? Since then, bickering of rift between Woodwarders and Slave Maker, whereas you work as one of the elders, as we do. Yes, I was wounded in day protecting a salve maker. I need to get into the habit of my recordings of not skipping through the text so quickly. I used to be really good at it in Neptunia V2R, but in this, it's like, because I know it's just tied to a side quest and isn't really important to anything, I'm kind of just skimming and scanning when I'm recording. I need to get better at giving myself more time to read it through, because I'm not going to keep up with that. But anyway, they sort out their differences and we get rewarded for our troubles, getting lightning arrows and ghillie boots. Ghillie boots are kind of cool, but you get so many of them late in the game that it kind of loses its importance. Now you can get thunder arrows for Fran. Well, or whoever you got as an archer, if you have anyone using archering stuff. The ghillie boots makes you immune to oil, which is pretty handy for specific moments in the game. But at the same time, you get so many of them later on, and it's only so useful. Like, ribbons exist. Like, I've yet to pick up one, despite passing several areas where ribbons are available to get. I've just been really unlucky, so I haven't got one yet. But still, they do exist, they can be got. And once you get a ribbon, you never go back. Ribbons are too good. But over here is the Mind Flare. Well, the hunter set up the Mind Flare. We do every single hunt that can be done right now. This one is actually a pretty weak one. He spams status conditions to try and make it so you can't attack so much, just so then he can pick you off later on. But if you have some Chronos tears, you'll win this fight. He won't be able to do that much to you. And the thing is, because he starts with haste, your first protocol should be to slow him down with time magic, and then he won't ever really kind of reinstate it. And you can see we're just beating him up now. He does halfway through the fight, well, I say once you're nearly done, it makes halfway through the fight, fully restore himself and buff himself. But that really isn't a problem because you can just get rid of him. Assuming it doesn't miss like it just did there. You can see me just... Yeah, it did go off, okay, it just said miss. What am I thinking? Oh no, I do just go back to trying to slow it down again. So you do technically do this fight twice, but the second fight is just the same again, but with buffs, so it's a little harder. And you will start inflicting sap more often, and sap can always be a bit dangerous if left unattended, because it will saps your health, hence the name. And blind isn't helping in Barsh's case, because blind is making it so his accuracy is abysmal, and since he's only really a physical attacker, that's only going to hurt us. Like, it's around now that the idea of using something like the technique that allows you to do more damage when you're blinded would be helpful, but it does. I either don't have it now or don't think to use it. No, I got it last part, didn't I? Sorry, I'm that far ahead in my recording. I do honestly forget what I've done and what I haven't, so I kind of find out a little bit as we go. It's like I know the entirety of this video is side questing and we start the plot properly next part. But the actual like inner pieces of it, it can come and go to me. The new set of armor is good, but you are giving up a little bit of magic power and MP. So if you're using your magic user, just be wary with it if you're going to equip it. I eventually do, but just be wary because you are giving up some MP for it. This is something that we won't actually get to do for a long while, because to do it we need access back to the Barheim passage, or the Barheim passage, and we don't have the key to get back in there. We will do it eventually, but it's a very long-winded side quest. There's two very long-winded side quests that you want to do to be able to access everything. There's a lot of side quests in this game, to be honest, but there's only two of them that I'll really be prioritizing. One of them we will be doing so we can finish off the hunts, and the other one is for an Esper later on. And there's going to be a collection of cleanup videos, well, like you alluded to, before the last proper dungeon in the game. A quite sizable collection of cleanup videos. During that, I do the entire side quest in kind of one go, just so I can show you every step. There's a couple bits we kind of do accidentally beforehand, because we've actually already started one of them, and we started it very early on in the game. The third proper hunt we did against the flowering cactoid is the start of the side quest, because if you go back and talk to him, he will give you stuff, and then if you take it up to his wife in the outpost north of the Ester Sands, you will then get access to the second part of the quest, and it just expands from there. So we have already technically done the first step, but that's just doing hunts. I haven't actually gone back to talk to him, which I'll be doing at a later point. While you're exploring here and picking up side quests, you'll notice one, I forget the name of the species, but you'll notice one like purplish two-legged rhino creature whose name slips my mind. He'll kind of be walking around lazily, looking quite miserable. If you talk to him, like, he will kind of ignore you and move away. Every time you do a hunt here, he will become more aware of you. If you do every single hunt that can be accepted in the Barheim passage and then go and talk to him, he will give you stuff for it. The only reason I mentioned it is because we did actually run past him going to get that hunt. He looked like he was kind of lazily running around, like he was tired, but was still trying to run. The only other hunt is, you can see I'm looking for it. I'm looking for a name. I'm running around talking to people, so I'm looking for a name. She's sitting by the side chairs, is behind us. That kid, Traveller, he will be talked to later on, but that's for a much more painful side quest. Well, I say so, it's for a hunt. It's just, it feels like a side quest because it takes forever, because it's so chance based. But if you talk to this lady over here, you can start up the carrot hunt. The carrot being tied to an area we'll be visiting in the plot later on, so it's just good to pick up now. And the carrot is the most dangerous Marlboro you're going to be fighting in the game. In terms of levels, it's not, but in terms of what it can do, it is. Like, its bad breath attack is the one that can inflict every single status condition in the game. Like I said, there are ones in the main plot you can fight far, far later, and there's another hunt that's tied to one far, far later that's not too bad. But that one's the one that can be the most troubling. But now is where I decide to, foolishly but bravely, return to tackle the antlion. And unfortunately, I didn't get a big enough chain to really do anything of any help. So none of the small like creatures got taken down. So the antlion is now more problematic because we've got a whole army of these little fuckers with us, and we don't have Larsa to be the extra damage. What doesn't help is that if the antlion takes too much damage, it will use something called Cannibalize, where it will eat one of the other smaller enemies and restore most, if not all, of its health, undoing any and all progress you've just made. So you extra want to kill them as soon as possible, because otherwise it's just going to be more trouble and make the antlion fight even harder than it already is. Plus there's the fact that the antlion, you know, busts itself when it's nearly dead, which is what resulted in my game over when I earlier attempted it with Larsa. And every time it cannibalizes, it does make itself slightly more deadly. But now they're all gone. Well, almost all of them are gone. There's one on the outskirts that eventually moves in and it cannibalizes as well, which was a bit annoying. But now we can actually start working on it, because we're still not the best level. If you really are wanting to tackle this at a more healthy stage, do it at around 50. If I'm honest, like, I'm still kind of under-leveled for this, and you're going to see me struggle, but I know I can do it now, so I push for it, even if it's difficult. Which I kind of prefer. If I can do it, if it's a situation where I know I can do it, it's just going to be a challenge, I'd rather do it. There are a couple points, and it's going to happen again later on, where I'll go to challenge a boss thinking I can do it, and I get absolutely massacred. Like, unrelentingly massacred, and I just have to accept that I'm not ready, even if I felt like I am. But there's one in particular that I literally just recorded it before I started doing this. Also, the thing just died, which is quite. You see, I'm spinning the screen because I'm quite happy about that. But there's one later on where you see me enter it quite boldly, and it's literally the very first thing the enemy does kills my whole party, and that's the end of it. I was like, oh. But once you've done this, it would kind of. You have these kids approach you and say, yay, thank you for saving us, because they were kind of, you know, trapped here. But when they attack, they drop their key into the depths, and above it is only water, so it's washed up somewhere. So you want to get the key to get access to the third area of the Lusu mines, because there is a third section to here. You need to find that key. The key is washed up on an area called the Fion Coast, the only dedicated beach area in the game. So when you get to the Fion Coast, or the Fion Coast, or however they pronounce it, I don't think they actually say it in the game, which is why, like, the pronunciation's a bit awkward. I will be highlighting where that key is, and I'll also be deterring quite quickly after I've got it back here to Lucy Mines to do the third section. Because in the third area, where you see that fence in the back corner, all the enemies are like high level 60, some of them even approaching level 70. But the loot is so amazing that if you can just niggle your way through, you absolutely should. But if you go back into the Antlion's Den, Expose is waiting for you, which is a very nice technique to get a hold of. Expose lowers your enemy's defense stat if you get it. Well, if it connects. But also, for getting in the Antlion infestation, you get my favourite piece of equipment to give my knight. You get the Bubble Belt. Bubble is a status condition I've mentioned before that Larsa had access to. Bubble doubles your health. So I eventually, as soon as I get the license points to buy it, equip it on Barsh, because then Barsh permanently has double health. He will have 7,500 health, which is amazing. But now I've come back from my round 2 of the Trickster, because I said before my first round, I don't think I showed it in the end. But the Trickster becomes a near impossible fight at our level if its health drops below 10%. So what you should be doing if you're following along is get its health as close to 10% as possible, and then relying on quickenings to do the rest of the work. And this will work as well on the original, because where your damage cap was 9,999. It will still work on the original. You just need to pay attention to its health bar as you go. Because it's on Zodiac Age, if you can get it below about a third, you should be good. Which is, I think, what I do in the end, because it just starts becoming more of a necessity, because the Trickster just doesn't fucking stop. Look at this thing, like, bye! It doesn't help there's an ice elemental in the area as well, determined to just be in a problem. If you leave the Trickster alone for too long, it will start regenerating health, but it will always come back to you eventually. So I decided to just take this opportunity to take down the ice elemental before I go looking for it. I guess, technically, you could count everything I'm doing this part as the preparations Balthier recommended we're doing. So technically we're doing what he wants, which is making sure we're prepared before our northern journey, because it is a long hike. The longest hike in the game, in fact. Like, the journey to Obisace and the journey to Wraithfall's tomb have nothing in comparison to the journey we're about to do. There is a lot between us and Arcadia. Like, they want it to be known that you're going from country to country now. You're going very far north. So we're going through a lot of different zones. Like, we've got the high waste, we've got a cave system, we've got a fine coast, we've got a giant marshland, we've got another cave system, then we've got a rundown old city, and then we've got Arcadia. So we've got 6 spots we're passing through, 6 fully developed locations we're passing through, with a detour into more of the Ester Sands, because there isn't a northern section that we can't access because it requires a boat service that isn't available right now. So we'll be exploring that as well. There's a lot between us and Arcadia. We're not getting there next part. It's a long hike. But now most of the more dangerous enemies are done, we can just prioritize the Trickster, and thankfully the thing stops running away as much. I say that as it starts running away again. So we can start getting it low down. But if you're following along, and if you're playing Zodiac Age, the health it's at now is the amount of health you should be good to take it down with. But if you're playing on normal, you do want to try and get it as close to 10% as possible so you can maximize the damage and kill it here and now. I even get the strongest version of the bonus, which is Black Hole. Which is always handy, which I think is just enough to finish it. Yeah, it does 43,000 damage, Jesus. And the Trickster is vanquished. If you're playing on the HD re-release, you'll get a trophy or achievement for doing that as well, so it's a worthy kill. But it's also one you need to do to access more of a side quest later on. Because the Trickster and another one, there is alludings, if you talk to people, there is alludings around that there is a hunter of hunters around. There is someone deliberately interfering and attempting to kill hunters trying to get their marks. The Trickster is one of the ones that if you pay attention to the lore around it, you'll notice that something wasn't 100% with that. Which is why you need to do it, because you need to do all the ones tied to it to get the final hunt where you bait that person out. But that being said, we've done everything I want to do for the side questing, so next time on Final Fantasy XII, we will in fact be heading north to try and work our way to Arcadia. But until then, you guys take care now.